Jack Howard stared out the viewport of the interstellar research vessel Horizon as it glided through space. The vastness of stars stretched before him, a breathtaking sight he still hadn't grown accustomed to despite 2 weeks aboard. He adjusted his standard-issue uniform, feeling the stiff fabric against his skin as a reminder of how new he was to this crew. Behind him, the soft hiss of the door announced someone entering the observation deck. Jack didn't need to turn to know it was likely another alien crew member coming to gawk at the human archaeologist. Observing the void again, Howard. Lieutenant Kraz's gravelly voice confirmed Jack's suspicion. The Valerian officer stood nearly 7 feet tall, his scaled skin reflecting the starlight in iridescent patterns. Shouldn't you be cataloging pottery shards, or whatever your species considers archaeology? Jack turned slowly, keeping his expression neutral. Just taking a moment to appreciate the view, Lieutenant. I'm headed to my assignment now. Kraz made a dismissive gesture with his 4-fingered hand. The captain may believe humans have something to contribute to this mission, but history suggests otherwise. Your kind barely left your own solar system before we found you. This was a familiar refrain. Jack had endured similar comments since joining the crew. The token human expert brought aboard to study ancient artifacts the ship collected during its scientific mission. His doctorate from Earth's prestigious global university and his 3 published works on pre-contact civilizations meant little to most of the crew. Jack moved toward the exit, choosing not to engage. As he passed Kraz, the Valerian extended one long limb, blocking his path. I'm curious, Howard, what exactly does Captain Lyra see in your species? You're physically inferior to almost every sentient race in the Alliance. No natural defenses, minimal strength, laughable endurance. Jack met the Valerian's compound eyes. Perhaps our persistence makes up for our physical limitations. Kraz laughed, a sound like stones grinding together. Persistence, is that what you call it? We call it stubbornness born from ignorance. The intercom chimed, saving Jack from responding. Captain Lyra's melodic Centaurian voice filled the room. Lieutenant Kraz, report to the bridge. Mr. Howard, please continue your cataloging in Storage Bay 3. Kraz lowered his arm. Duty calls. Enjoy your dusty relics, human. Jack made his way through the curved corridors of the ship, nodding politely to passing crew members who mostly ignored him. The storage bay doors parted with a pneumatic sigh, revealing rows of carefully preserved artifacts from dozens of worlds. Don't let Kraz get to you, said a voice from behind a large containment unit. Ellie Mason, the ship's human communications specialist, emerged holding a scanner. He treats everyone that way, but humans get special attention. Jack smiled at the familiar face. Ellie was the only other human aboard the Horizon, and though they'd only known each other briefly, they'd formed a quick bond. I've dealt with worse at academic conferences, Jack said, moving to his workstation. At least here, no one's trying to steal my research. Ellie laughed. Not yet anyway. So what treasures are you sorting today? Jack activated his terminal, bringing up inventory lists. Artifacts from the Rigelian excavation. Some interesting ceremonial items that might connect to early interstellar contact. Sounds more exciting than calibrating communication arrays, Ellie said. I should get back before they notice I'm gone. Dinner later. Jack nodded. Usual time at the mess hall. After Ellie left, Jack immersed himself in his work, carefully examining each artifact. Despite the cold reception from most crew members, he felt privileged to study these ancient items. Each one told a story of civilizations that had risen and fallen across the galaxy. He picked up a small metallic disc covered in unfamiliar symbols. As he turned it in his hands, he couldn't help but wonder what secrets it might hold, and whether those secrets might someday prove his worth to the crew that so easily dismissed him. 3 days later, Jack sat in the mess hall across from Ellie, both picking at their synthesized meals designed to approximate Earth cuisine. The food never quite tasted right, but it was a small comfort among the stars. I think I'm making progress with the Rigelian artifacts, Jack said, pushing his food around the plate. There's evidence they might have had contact with other spacefaring races much earlier than we thought. Ellie was about to respond when the ship's alarm system activated, a low pulsing tone that made both humans look up. "Attention all crew," Captain Lyra's voice came over the intercom. "Report to stations. Senior officers to the bridge immediately." "That's not the emergency alarm," Ellie said, already standing. "But something's happening. I need to get to communications." Jack followed her out, heading toward his assigned emergency station in the archaeology lab. As they hurried through the corridors, crew members of various species rushed past them, some giving the humans curious glances. When Jack reached the lab, his supervisor, Dr. Nex, was already there, his 6 tentacle-like appendages working multiple terminals simultaneously. "What's happening?" Jack asked. Dr. Nex's eye stalks swiveled toward him. The sensors detected an unusual signal. Very old, from the look of it. The intercom activated again. Dr. Nex and Mr. Howard to the bridge. Jack exchanged a surprised look with Dr. Nex. Humans were rarely called to the bridge, especially during alert situations. When they arrived, the bridge was buzzing with activity. Captain Lyra stood at the center, her tall, elegant form commanding respect. Her silver skin caught the light of the displays surrounding her. Mr. Howard. She acknowledged them with a nod. "We've detected a signal of unknown origin. Lieutenant Kraz believes it's nothing worth investigating, but given your expertise in ancient communications, I wanted your opinion." The communications officer, a Proximan with translucent skin, played the signal. A series of pulses and tones filled the bridge, seemingly random to most ears. Jack listened intently, his eyes widening. "Can you display the waveform?" When the visual representation appeared on screen, Jack stepped forward. "Those patterns, they're similar to proto-human dialects, specifically those from the earliest days of Earth's space exploration." Lieutenant Kraz made a dismissive sound. "Impossible. Human ships never ventured this far." "Not our ships," Jack clarified, excitement building in his voice. "But the language structure shares roots with Earth's oldest languages. It's like finding Sanskrit in space." Captain Lyra's expression remained neutral, but her eyes showed interest. "Can you translate it?" "Not immediately," Jack admitted, "but with time and the right algorithms, maybe. What I can tell you is that it's a distress signal. The repeating pattern here," he pointed to the display, "is consistent with emergency broadcasts across multiple cultures." Dr. Nex moved closer to the display. "He's right. The mathematical consistency suggests a deliberate communication attempt." Lieutenant Kraz crossed his arms. "Captain, we have a mission schedule to maintain. This could be a waste of valuable resources." "Where is the signal coming from?" Captain Lyra asked, ignoring Kraz's protest. The navigation officer, a reptilian saurian, displayed a star chart. "An uncharted region near the edge of the Cygnus Nebula. No known settlements or outposts." Captain Lyra was quiet for a moment, weighing her options. Finally, she turned to Jack. "Mr. Howard, how confident are you in your assessment?" Jack met her gaze steadily. "Very confident, Captain. This is unlike anything in our databases. It could be a significant discovery, or a significant waste of time." Kraz muttered. Captain Lyra made her decision. "Set course for the signal's origin. Mr. Howard, work with communications to decipher this message. I want to know what we're heading into." As Jack left the bridge with Dr. Nex, he could feel Kraz's glare burning into his back. He had convinced the captain to change their course based on his analysis. Now he needed to prove it wasn't a mistake. The horizon slowed as it approached the coordinates of the mysterious signal. Jack had spent the past 36 hours in the communications lab, working alongside Ellie to decipher more of the message. They had managed to translate fragments suggesting an ancient vessel in distress, but much remained unclear. Jack stood on the bridge now, invited by Captain Lyra to witness their arrival. The main view screen showed only the swirling gases of the nebula's edge, beautiful clouds of purple and blue illuminated by distant stars. Sensors detect a large object ahead, reported the Saurian navigator, adjusting course for visual confirmation. The ship maneuvered through a particularly dense cloud of cosmic dust. When they emerged, everyone on the bridge fell silent. Floating before them was an enormous spacecraft, easily 5 times the size of the horizon. Its design was unlike anything in known space. Elegant curves combined with angular sections that seemed to follow mathematical principles rather than practical engineering. Parts of the hull glowed with a faint blue light, despite obvious damage across its surface. "It's beautiful," Jack whispered. Lieutenant Kraz, standing nearby, actually nodded in agreement. "And ancient. Look at the impact patterns. It's been here for centuries, maybe millennia." Captain Lyra turned to her science officer. "Life signs." "None detected, Captain. But power readings suggest some systems remain functional. The architecture doesn't match any known species," Dr. Nex observed, his eye stalks extended in fascination. Jack studied the ship's design, noting patterns that strangely reminded him of ancient Earth structures. Proportions that followed the golden ratio and symbols that bore unsettling similarities to humanity's oldest writing systems. "Captain," he said, his voice steady despite his excitement, "I believe this ship predates all known galactic civilizations. The signal patterns, the design elements, they share characteristics with artifacts from before recorded history." Captain Lyra considered this information. "Prepare a boarding team. Full environmental protection. We don't know what's waiting inside." She turned to Jack. "Mr. Howard, given your archaeological background, you'll join the team." Lieutenant Kraz stepped forward. "Captain, I'll lead the security detail." An hour later, Jack found himself in an environmental suit, standing in the Horizon's airlock alongside Lieutenant Kraz, Dr. Nex, and 3 security officers of various species. His heart pounded with both fear and anticipation. "Stay behind the security team," Kraz instructed Jack. "Touch nothing without clearance." The shuttle transported them across the void to the ancient vessel. They located what appeared to be an entry point, a massive door partially open, revealing darkness beyond. With lights activated on their suits, the team entered the derelict ship. The interior was even more impressive than the exterior. Vast chambers with impossibly high ceilings, walls covered in intricate patterns and symbols. "These markings," Jack said, scanning them with his device. "They're similar to what we call Forerunner script in archaeological circles, theoretical writings from a civilization that supposedly predated all others." "Theoretical until now," Dr. Nex added, his voice filled with academic excitement. They proceeded deeper into the ship, finding evidence of a highly advanced civilization. In one chamber, they discovered what appeared to be residential quarters, abandoned in haste. In another, a control room with dead consoles. "There was a battle here," Lieutenant Kraz said, pointing to damage patterns on the walls. "Weapons fire, not structural failure." Jack examined a panel covered in symbols. "These refer to the great enemy and the last defense. Something attacked them." As they continued their exploration, Jack noticed recurring references to a powerful technology stored in the ship's core, something called Guardian Armor. "Captain," he reported over the comm, "I believe this ship was a research vessel developing advanced defensive technology. And from these references, it seems the technology was designed specifically for beings with physiology similar to." He hesitated, almost not believing his own conclusion. "Similar to humans." The team members looked at each other, surprised. Lieutenant Kraz's expression was skeptical behind his faceplate, but for once, he didn't voice his doubt aloud. The exploration team continued through the ancient vessel, documenting everything they found. Jack became increasingly convinced that the ship held secrets specifically connected to human physiology, but the evidence remained circumstantial. References in the strange script that hinted at beings similar to humans. "Dr. Nex, I believe there's a significant chamber beneath us," Jack said, studying his scanner. "These conduits all lead downward." Lieutenant Kraz checked the ship schematics they had compiled. There's a vertical access shaft around the next corner. We could use it to reach the lower levels. The team located the shaft, a tube large enough for two people to descend side by side, with handholds cut into the walls. I'll take Howard and two security personnel, Kraz decided. Dr. Nex, continue exploring this level with the others. Jack was surprised by Kraz's decision to include him, but didn't question it. The descent took nearly 15 minutes, the shaft extending deep into the ship's core. When they reached the bottom, they found themselves in a dimly lit corridor. Unlike the upper levels, this area showed signs of emergency power still functioning. Faint lights pulsed along the floor, leading away from the shaft. Follow the lights, Jack suggested. They might be guiding us to something important. Kraz nodded in agreement. The team moved cautiously down the corridor, weapons ready. Eventually, they reached a massive circular door emblazoned with symbols. It's a warning, Jack translated, running his scanner over the markings. And an invitation. It says, "Only the worthy may claim the Guardian's gift." Cryptic nonsense, Kraz muttered, examining the door mechanism. It appears to be partially operational. We should be able to open it. With effort from all 4 team members, they managed to slide the door open. Beyond was a sight that made Jack freeze in astonishment. The chamber was enormous and hexagonal, with a central platform surrounded by alcoves. In each alcove stood a humanoid suit of armor, sleek, slightly iridescent, and unlike any technology Jack had ever seen. There were dozens of them, standing silently like guardians in a tomb. "Incredible," Jack whispered, approaching the nearest suit. It was clearly designed for a bipedal being with 2 arms and a head similar in proportion to a human. "Caution, Howard," Kraz warned, scanning the suits. "Unknown technology." The security officers spread out, examining the chamber while maintaining defensive positions. Jack studied the central platform, which displayed more of the Forerunner script. "This is it," he said, excitement making his voice shake. The Guardian armor mentioned in the upper chambers. According to this, it was the civilization's greatest achievement, a defensive system that bonded with its wearer, enhancing natural abilities and providing protection against the enemy. Lieutenant Kraz approached one of the suits, reaching out to touch it. Nothing happened. "Seems dormant. Probably deactivated centuries ago." Jack noticed a panel near the central platform. "This might be a control system. Let me try to understand it." As he worked with the panel, translating symbols and testing different interactions, he began to grasp the activation sequence. The script repeatedly mentioned the inheritors, beings who would come later and could use the technology. "I think I've got it," Jack said finally. "The system needs genetic verification. It's looking for specific markers." Kraz stepped forward. "I'll try it." The Valerian placed his scaled hand on the panel. Nothing happened. One by one, the security officers tried, with the same result. "Let me," Jack said finally. When Kraz hesitated, Jack added, "The references to beings like humans. It's worth trying." Reluctantly, Kraz nodded. Jack removed his glove and placed his bare hand on the panel. Immediately, the chamber came alive. Lights flared in the floor, ceiling, and walls. The central platform began to glow with a blue-white light that pulsed like a heartbeat. One of the armor suits, the closest to Jack, stepped forward from its alcove, moving on its own. It stopped before him, then opened like a flower blooming, revealing a hollow interior shaped perfectly for a human body. "By the stars," Kraz whispered, his usual disdain forgotten. Jack stared at the open armor, his heart racing. It responded to human DNA. It was waiting for us. The armor seemed to beckon to him, offering power and knowledge from a long-dead civilization. Jack took a deep breath and stepped forward. Jack stood before the open armor, hesitating for just a moment before making his decision. "I'm going to try it on," he announced, meeting Lieutenant Kraz's compound eyes. "Howard, that's not." Kraz began, but Jack had already stepped into the waiting suit. The moment his body was fully inside, the armor closed around him with fluid precision. Jack gasped as he felt a momentary pressure across his entire body, then a strange coolness as the suit seemed to analyze him. Tiny pinpricks of sensation traveled across his skin. "Howard, report." Kraz's voice sounded distant now. Inside the armor, Jack saw displays activating, holographic symbols floating before his eyes. The suit felt surprisingly lightweight, almost as if it had become part of him. He could feel it adjusting, conforming perfectly to his body. "I'm okay," Jack said, his voice slightly altered by the suit's systems. "It's integrating with me somehow. I can feel it connecting to my nervous system." He took an experimental step forward. The movement felt natural, enhanced even. When he raised his arm, the armor moved with perfect synchronization, as if it were his own skin. "Remarkable," one of the security officers whispered. Lieutenant Kraz circled Jack, scanning the armor. "The power readings are off the charts. This technology is far beyond anything in the Alliance." Jack was about to respond when a violent shudder ran through the ancient ship. The floor beneath them trembled, and distant sounds of metal tearing echoed through the corridors. "What was that?" Jack asked, suddenly alert. Their comm units crackled to life with Dr. Nex's urgent voice. "Lieutenant, we're under attack. Unknown vessels have appeared and are boarding the derelict. They've already breached the upper levels." Another explosion rocked the ship, closer this time. Warning lights began flashing in the armor chamber. "We need to get back to the horizon," Kraz ordered, drawing his weapon. "Move." The team rushed toward the shaft they had descended earlier. Jack found himself moving with unexpected speed and agility, the armor anticipating his movements and enhancing them. They had just reached the base of the shaft when a section of ceiling collapsed, blocking their exit path with debris. "We're trapped," one of the security officers said, scanning for alternatives. Jack felt information flowing into his mind from the armor. Ship schematics, emergency protocols, weapon systems. "There's another way," he said, suddenly certain. "Follow me." He led them through a side passage that hadn't been on their scans. The armor was guiding him, showing him escape routes through some kind of mural interface. As they hurried through the corridors, they heard weapons fire ahead. Rounding a corner, they encountered Dr. Nex and the rest of the team in a firefight with bizarre, insectoid creatures. The aliens were tall, with segmented bodies and 4 arms wielding advanced energy weapons. "The swarm," Kraz hissed, raising his weapon. How did they find this place? Jack didn't hesitate. Following the armor's guidance, he charged forward. A protective field activated around him as enemy fire struck his position. He reached Dr. Nex's group, creating a barrier between them and the attackers. "Get behind me," Jack shouted. The armor's systems offered weapon options. Jack mentally selected one, and his right arm transformed, energy building at his palm. He released it in a concussive blast that knocked the insectoid creatures backward. "Howard." Dr. Nex stared at him in shock. "No time to explain," Jack said. "The armor is showing me a path to the docking area. We can reach our shuttle if we hurry." More explosions shook the ship as they fought their way toward the exit. Jack led the charge, the ancient armor proving more effective than any Alliance weapon against the swarm attackers. He moved with increasing confidence, letting the suit guide his actions. When a support beam collapsed, nearly crushing 2 crew members, Jack caught it with strength he had never possessed, holding it up while the others escaped. Lieutenant Kraz, bringing up the rear, stared at Jack with new eyes. "Perhaps we underestimated your species, Howard." Jack nodded as he dropped the beam and continued forward. It seems the Forerunners didn't. The team fought their way to the docking area where their shuttle waited. The ancient ship shuddered continuously now, systems failing as the swarm attack intensified. Jack used the armor's capabilities to clear paths through debris and protect the others from enemy fire. Almost there, Kraz shouted as they rounded the final corner to the airlock where their shuttle was docked. 5 more swarm soldiers blocked their path. Without hesitation, Jack stepped forward, the armor's defense field absorbing enemy fire. He returned fire with the energy weapon built into the suit's arm, taking down 3 attackers while Kraz and the security team eliminated the others. "Get everyone aboard," Jack ordered, surprising himself with his confident tone. "I'll cover the retreat." For once, Kraz didn't argue. As the exploration team piled into the shuttle, Jack held position at the airlock, using the armor's enhanced sensors to monitor approaching threats. The shuttle's engines fired up just as another wave of swarm soldiers appeared. Jack backed onto the shuttle ramp, continuing to fire as the door closed. With a violent lurch, the shuttle detached from the ancient vessel and sped toward the horizon. "The horizon is taking heavy fire," the pilot reported. "Captain Lyra reports multiple hull breaches and casualties." Jack felt the armor interfacing more deeply with his mind, offering tactical information and analysis. "The swarm ships are focusing on the horizon's engine section. They're trying to disable it." Through the shuttle viewport, they watched as 3 sleek, chitinous swarm vessels surrounded the research ship. Energy beams lanced out, cutting into the horizon's hull. They were waiting for someone to find the derelict, Kraz realized. "We led them straight to it." The shuttle docked with the horizon amid chaos. Crew members rushed through smoke-filled corridors, carrying wounded to the medical bay. Emergency containment fields flickered over hull breaches. "Lieutenant Kraz, report to the bridge immediately," came a voice over the intercom. "Mr. Howard, your presence is also requested." They found Captain Lyra coordinating the defense, her silver skin dulled with exhaustion and a wound visible on her left arm. She turned as they entered, her eyes widening at the sight of Jack in the ancient armor. "I see you found something significant," she said, remarkably composed despite the crisis. "Captain, the armor responds to human physiology," Jack explained quickly. "It has integrated with me and provides enhanced capabilities. The swarm are after this technology." A violent impact rocked the bridge. "They've breached Deck 4, a crew member reported. Boarding parties detected in sections 7 through 9. Captain Lyra straightened despite her injury. "Lieutenant, coordinate our security teams. We must protect the engine core at all costs." "What about the armor?" Kraz asked, glancing at Jack. "Mr. Howard," Captain Lyra said, "what can that suit do to help us?" Jack felt the armor feeding him information, capabilities, tactical options, power levels. It has advanced combat systems and can interface with technology similar to its design. I might be able to disrupt their communications or weapons. Another explosion shook the ship. "Captain." Ellie's voice came over the comm. "They've reached the communications hub. We're surrounded." Jack's heart raced. "I can get to her. The armor is showing me routes through maintenance tunnels." Captain Lyra nodded. "Go. Lieutenant Kraz, take 3 security officers and head for the engine core. I'll coordinate from here." Jack moved with newfound speed and agility through the ship. The armor guided him through narrow passages and access tunnels, avoiding direct confrontation where possible. When he encountered swarm soldiers, the suit's weapons made short work of them. He reached the communications hub to find Ellie and 2 other crew members barricaded behind overturned equipment, pinned down by swarm fire. Without hesitation, Jack burst into the room. The armored shield absorbed the enemy attack while he systematically eliminated the swarm soldiers. His movements were fluid and precise, as if he had trained for years in combat. "Jack." Ellie stared at him in disbelief as he helped her to her feet. "It's me," he confirmed, the armor's faceplate becoming transparent to show his face. "Are you hurt?" "Just scared," she admitted. "What happened to you?" "I found what they were protecting on that ship," Jack replied, checking the others for injuries. "And I think it's been waiting for humans all along." As if to punctuate his words, the ship rocked with another impact. The battle for the horizon and the ancient technology was far from over. Jack escorted Ellie and the other communications officers to the medical bay, defeating 2 more groups of swarm soldiers along the way. The armor responded to his thoughts almost instantly now, as if it had fully synchronized with his nervous system. In the medical bay, he found Dr. Nex treating wounded crew members. The doctor's eye stalks swiveled toward Jack as he entered. "Howard, the captain needs you on the bridge," Dr. Nex said urgently. "The swarm have disabled our main weapons. We're defenseless." Jack felt a strange certainty growing within him. "Doctor, there's more armor on the derelict ship. If we could retrieve even a few suits, we might have a chance." "Impossible," Dr. Nex replied. "The path is overrun with swarm troops." Jack turned to Ellie, who was helping tend to the wounded. "Ellie, the armor responds to human DNA. You could use one too." Her eyes widened. "Me? But I'm not a soldier, Jack. I'm a communications specialist." "Neither am I," Jack reminded her. "I'm an archaeologist. But the suit guides you, enhances what you already know." He held out his hand. "I can't do this alone." Ellie hesitated only briefly before nodding. "What's the plan?" "We need a small, fast shuttle," Jack said. "One that can make the journey to the derelict without being detected." Dr. Nex pointed to a nearby terminal. "Auxiliary shuttle bay has an atmospheric scout. Small profile, minimal signature." "Perfect." Jack accessed the terminal, the armor interfacing with the ship's systems effortlessly. "Ellie, meet me at Auxiliary Shuttle Bay in 5 minutes." Jack made a quick detour to the weapons locker, collecting standard-issue energy rifles for their mission. As he headed for the shuttle bay, Lieutenant Kraz's voice came over his comm. "Howard, where are you going? The captain needs you on the bridge." "I have a plan to save the ship," Jack replied. "Trust me." There was a pause before Kraz responded. "You have 1 hour. After that, we'll be forced to attempt a desperate escape through the nebula." Jack met Ellie at the shuttle bay. She looked terrified but determined, clutching a medical kit and scanner. "Ready?" he asked. She nodded, "As ready as I'll ever be to fly into an alien war zone." They boarded the scout ship, a sleek vessel designed for atmospheric exploration. Jack took the controls, finding that the armor enhanced his ability to operate the unfamiliar craft. They detached from the horizon and immediately powered down to minimal systems, using the nebula's gas clouds for cover as they approached the ancient derelict. The swarm ships were focused on the horizon, giving them a narrow window of opportunity. There, Jack pointed to a secondary airlock he had discovered in the armor schematics. "We can enter there and reach the armor chamber without being detected." They docked successfully and made their way through darkened corridors. The derelict ship was now crawling with swarm soldiers searching for technology. Jack used the armor's stealth capabilities to avoid detection, guiding Ellie through maintenance tunnels. When they reached the armor chamber, they found it partially guarded by swarm troops. The aliens had been unable to activate the suits, but were attempting to remove them from their alcoves. "We need a distraction," Ellie whispered. Jack nodded, pointing to an environmental control panel. "If you can reach that panel, you can vent atmosphere from Section 3. It will draw them away." Ellie crept to the panel while Jack provided cover. When she activated the sequence, alarms blared, and the swarm troops rushed to investigate the sudden decompression. They slipped into the chamber, moving quickly to the central platform. Jack placed Ellie's hand on the activation panel. Just as with him, the system recognized her human DNA. Another suit stepped forward, opening for her. "I'm scared," she admitted, staring at the ancient technology. "It's okay," Jack assured her. "It will feel strange at first, but then it becomes natural. Like it was made for you." Ellie took a deep breath and stepped into the armor. It closed around her, and she gasped as the integration process began. "Jack, I can see everything," she said in wonder as the suit came online. "Ship schematics, weapon systems, tactical displays. We don't have much time," Jack said, moving to a storage area the armor had identified. "There are compatible weapons here. The Forerunners left an entire arsenal." They collected several devices that the armor identified as powerful disruptors designed to target swarm neural networks. As they prepared to leave, Jack accessed another system hidden in the chamber walls. The derelict's defensive systems are still partially operational, he realized. We can activate them remotely using our armor. Ellie nodded, her movements already becoming more fluid as she adapted to the suit. Let's turn the tide. They left the chamber, now moving as formidable warriors rather than fleeing scientists. The battle for both ships, and perhaps the future of humanity, was about to enter a new phase. Jack and Ellie moved with synchronized precision through the ancient ship, their armor guiding them toward the derelict's command center. No longer hiding, they confronted swarm soldiers directly, their enhanced abilities making short work of the insectoid invaders. The neural disruptors are working perfectly, Ellie said as she activated one of the Forerunner weapons, sending a pulse that dropped a group of swarm soldiers instantly. They'd reached the command center, a vast chamber with a crystalline viewscreen showing the battle outside. The horizon was still under heavy attack, its shields failing. We need to hurry, Jack said, moving to what appeared to be the main control interface. His armor connected to the system immediately, displays lighting up with information. The derelict has defensive capabilities, but they're running on minimal power. Ellie joined him at a secondary console. My armor is showing me how to reroute emergency power. If we divert it from life support systems, which we don't need anyway, we can power up the main defenses. They worked quickly, the armor translating the ancient controls. Outside, one of the swarm vessels detected their activity and broke off its attack on the horizon, turning toward the derelict. They've noticed us, Jack warned. Defensive systems at 60%. It'll have to do. With a mental command, he activated the derelict's weapons. Energy beams lanced out from hidden emplacements on the ancient hull, striking the approaching swarm ship with devastating accuracy. The alien vessel shuddered, then exploded in a silent flash. It worked, Ellie exclaimed. Jack opened a communication channel to the horizon. Captain Lyra, Lieutenant Kraz, this is Howard. We've activated the derelict's defense systems and are engaging the swarm fleet. Kraz's voice came through, filled with disbelief. Howard, what have you done? Saved our lives, I hope, Jack replied. We've acquired a second suit of armor and weapons. The swarm can't stand against this technology. On the view screen, they watched as the horizon managed to pull away from the remaining swarm ships, which were now focusing on the greater threat, the awakened derelict and its ancient weapons. We've got their attention, Ellie said, but we can't hold them off forever. The power systems are too degraded. Jack felt the armor feeding him options, strategies. We need to take the fight to them. Their command ship is the key. They returned to their shuttle, using the armor's enhanced piloting capabilities to navigate through the battle. The small craft, nearly invisible against the nebula's backdrop, approached the largest swarm vessel, a massive ship bristling with biological-looking weapons. The disruptors will work on their central neural network, Jack said as they prepared to board. One concentrated pulse at the command node will disable the entire fleet. They breached the swarm command ship through a maintenance hatch, fighting their way through narrow corridors filled with defenders. The armor made them nearly unstoppable, deflecting energy weapons and enhancing their strength and speed. When they reached the central chamber, they found the Swarm Queen, a massive insectoid creature connected to biological interfaces, her compound eyes fixed on them with alien intelligence. Now, Ellie, Jack shouted. They activated the disruptors simultaneously, sending concentrated pulses at the neural network. The Queen writhed in agony as the command systems failed. Throughout the ship, swarm soldiers collapsed, their connection to the hive mind severed. They fled the command ship as systems failed around them, returning to the horizon as the remaining swarm vessels drifted powerless in space. On the bridge of the horizon, Captain Lyra and Lieutenant Kraz greeted them with amazement. Jack and Ellie stood side by side in their ancient armor, living proof of humanity's unexpected inheritance. "You have saved this ship and everyone aboard," Captain Lyra acknowledged. "And you've discovered technology that changes our understanding of galactic history." Lieutenant Kraz approached Jack, his usual disdain replaced with respect. "I was wrong about humans, Howard. Your species possesses qualities we fail to recognize." "The armor was designed for human physiology," Jack explained. "The Forerunners must have seen something in our ancestors, potential that would one day be realized." In the days that followed, as the Horizon returned to Alliance space with news of their discovery, Jack and Ellie became the first members of a new research team. Scientists and diplomats flocked to study the derelict and its technological treasures.